Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and today we are carrying on our best of 2022 with the first of the superhero comic books on the list, Poison Ivy. Technically a supervillain, but she has superpowers, so that's okay. And before we get into the writing and the art, both of which are very important, we're going to talk about the character and why this one made it onto the lists first off. Because Poison Ivy, hero, villain, yes, interesting debate to have. I first encountered Poison Ivy as a younger gentleman, and she was always written and drawn to be an over-the-top sexualized femme fatale type character. If she was wearing clothes at all, they were usually bikinis, if that, and they were deliberately designed to be revealing, and she has the power to control pheromones and make men do what they want to do and then die as a result of it. It all feels very over-the-top, women as a villain just because of their femininity kind of thing, and as a young man, didn't really bother me. I was a teenager. She was hot. But I've grown up since then, and as I've grown up, I've realised I have less and less interest in the character. She was supposedly she was supposedly trying to destroy humanity in favour of plant life, and I found that to be kind of an odd thing to do. Not so much I was against the environment when I was a kid, but as I've grown up, it's like diversity is really important, and there is ways of controlling things, and the idea of just get rid of all humanity to make the environment better is commonly known as environmental fascism. And it's basically we need less people, and the kind of people who spouses usually have very particular groups of people in mind who they wish weren't breeding quite so much. Very rarely dealing with capitalists. This is the big change for me. In all the reasons I've just said. Number one, pretty much the only time you see her in anything like a revealing outfit is when she's wearing coveralls but tied around the waist and a tank top. And it's not a revealing tank top, it's not with like cleavage on display, it's literally something she's wearing underneath her overalls, and she's taken the top down a little bit because she's warm. I have had jobs before where I've worn overalls, and every once in a while I will take those off and leave a t-shirt on because it is just nicer that way. It doesn't feel in any way sexual, it's just a woman who's doing a job. And she looks good. She does, but that's not the point of it. Pretty much everything you see her, she's in clothes that look comfortable for doing what she's supposed to be doing. She is utilitarian. She is just doing what is necessary. Not just in the way she dresses, though, in also how she approaches things. And here we get the good stuff. Because she has an arc in the first few issues, the 6 issues I'm mainly going to be talking about, where she goes from this understanding of like, okay, I have tried everything else. And there's times when she doesn't go for bad guy, I know that. There's times when Harley has been a good influence on her. But I think, as is often the case, she kind of drifts between them. And she starts out thinking, yeah, she has access to this. Well, she's been infected by a cordyceps, I think is a type of mushroom, which is toxic and deadly and will wipe out all non-mushroom life. With the idea being just a full return to the green. Which, okay, yeah, again, I'm like, okay, that's a very, very, like, over-the-top way of dealing with things, Ivy. But, okay, if this is the way you think it needs to be done, who am I to complain? You are an all-powerful goddess at this point, pretty much an avatar of the green in your own way. But over the course of the issues, you see her delving down these paths and realizing she is still being manipulated, and her controller is still a guy, Woodrow, I think his name is. And she ends up breaking free from that kind of control and realizing that, yes, there is actually ways to do things which don't necessarily mean destroying all other life. There is something to be said for different types of life existing in the same place. There's a bit where she actually talks about, like, would she eat plants or would she eat meat? And she's like, no, I'll absolutely eat meat. It's fine. Some of these animals do good things. It shows growth from a very early point in her character to where she is now. Right. That is the basics of it. Now there's some extra details about why I think it's fantastic. Number one, she pretty much is an anarchist, and I love that. She does talk about working as a collective, which is quite cool, and she's going to reach out to the people when it comes to the end. There's a fantastic little bit of writing at the end of issue 6, where it's effectively her talking about the way to produce change is to be a revolutionary, and I'm like, yes, power to the people. Absolutely love all of that. The way the story is put together as well is fantastic, because it's all... not all. An awful lot of the boxed out dialogue is basically Ivy sending messages back to Harley, or at least trying to, writing them. Whether or not she posts them, I've never been 100% clear, but I like the fact that she's at least writing them. That POV point basically means we are more experiencing something over the shoulder of Poison Ivy. It's not just a story. This is the bit that hit me, and I didn't realise this until I was lucky enough to be talking to G. Willow Wilson at Thought Bubble, that because of the nature of the way the story's been put together, it feels more like it's Pamela Isley's story rather than a story about Poison Ivy. And I know that's a small distinction to make, but if you do get the chance to read it, I hope you'll see why. I had this conversation, and me and Mrs. Wilson were in agreement on it, and she says, yes, the entire point is it should feel like it's a far more personal experience of what's going on, and it should be a call to action. It should be something which moves you when you read it. This isn't just a story about a thing that happens and you get to watch it. It's a story about stuff that's happening everywhere, and we're all going to experience it, and we should be engaging with it. And I got to agree, it does all of that, and it's a great comic book. I've had this conversation before, if it was just me talking about things that I like, my politics and my economics and all that kind of thing, I would give it actually a really heavy go over before I start telling you it's fantastic. Because otherwise, you'll just get the impression that I'm just telling you to read stuff because I want to indoctrinate you into my way of life. So this is a great comic book. G. Willow Wilson is a fantastic writer. The voice she's given not only to Ivy, but to all the characters in it are brilliant. And the art is superb. Some of the most richly coloured things I've seen in a long time. It's all about this force of nature that goes through it, and as such, the colour palette is perfectly tuned to what we get to see. And the line work is spectacular, every single detail of the plants. I mean, we are talking about a mushroom which takes people over and gives them a painless death and produces more spores. That's a horror story. And even with this delightful, warm, rich art, it feels like it's horrific at times. And it should do. This is a terrifying thing that's happening, and it shows quite how far Ivy has gone. It is fantastic in so many ways. I honestly hope that this carries on for a lot longer. I've just got issue 7, and apart from the slight artist change, it is still absolutely fantastic. And I really hope Ms. Wilson gets to carry on writing this, because she is fantastic, and she's got such a good grasp on Ivy's voice that it feels authentic in a way I've never read Poison Ivy before. Right, that was number 10. Number 9 next. So keep an eye out and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Until I see you again, though, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.